Welcome back to the channel where we are building a video game from scratch using Love2d and Lua. We're working on our inventory system for the game here. We've got some programmer art for our inventory system, and yesterday we made ourselves a little inventory class that is rendering this red square, but we need to basically add a couple of things so that we can render items in the inventory at the correct grid location, as well as have a cursor that kind of blinks and tells you which cursor location, which grid location you're at in your inventory system. So we're going to be working on that today. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter day because I've got some stuff to do today still, but we're going to see what we can get done. So we left ourselves with some pseudocode here. We need a cursor update. If A button is pressed, if the item in cursor inventory grid, if there is an item in the grid that our cursor's over, then it checks, okay, well, is there an item in that slot? If there is, copy the item into a temp variable, remove the current item from our equip slot, go ahead and insert the selected item into the equip slot and replace the current item. So we would... This is the kind of idea. It's tricky to navigate this. What I came down to yesterday was like we have a 2D array, so we have an inventory grid, and it's a row amount of columns, right? So if we look at our game, we have a little mock-up for the little items that are supposed to be in there. So like, there's 3 columns here and 4 rows of different items we can put. So we need a way to, I think the move is we need to make an items class, and an item has a name, a grid location, maybe a amount, you know, if we have more than one of it. So I think we need to make an item class and go ahead and give it an image to render, and then we can start messing around with placing items within our inventory class. Then we can worry about cursor selection, because right now cursor selection, there's nothing to select, so let's go ahead and make us that thing to select. So let's get started here. We'll go into our source folder here, and we're going to make a new class, and it's going to be called items.lua. Let's just do item.lua because it's a singular instantiation. So we'll say item gets class, empty brackets, and then the item, it is function item, like this. Then we'll have a update. Okay. So we know we need a couple of things. We need to know where it lives. Like, we need to know if it's equipped, maybe if it's equipped or not, or if there's a self dot grid row, grid column, something like that. It needs an image, and then it needs like an amount, quantity. Let's go ahead. I don't know if we can save. I'm wondering if we can save a circle as a dot image. So like, I don't know if we can say love.graphics.circle. I'm forgetting the I think it just needs a radius and an X and Y. I'm not remembering. Let's see. XY radius. Okay. So we'll set our background to white so we can see what we're drawing, and then draw the image, our self.image, at our own position. Okay. So this is an item. We need to include it so our rest of our app can use it. So we'll say item. Okay. And then we have this defined, but we don't have it instantiated. So we'll need to come in to, where would it be? It would need to exist outside of the pause state because it needs consistent memory. So I feel like let's make it up here or something. We have a G inventory, so let's call it, I don't know. I don't know. Let's just say that we have a global items, and it's just gonna be a table. So we want like an empty table, and then we want to insert into the table so our G items, we will place a item instantiation, just like this. I think that'll work. So now we have in our G items a item instantiation. It took in no arguments, but we don't have any arguments. It's just an init, okay? And it's got a circle as an image. So I guess the question is, can we store a circle as a .image and then use a circle as a parameter for the first drawable argument in draw? I don't know. So let's try to do this. Let's go. We have a G item of one item. Let's just make sure that we can see something here. We'll just say, okay, hello. Add argument 2 to circle number expected. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we see hello. So the question is, we want to say G items, index 1, render. Can we see a circle here? Drawable expected, bet argument 1 to 18. Okay. That's kind of what I thought it would mess up at. So our self.image is a love.graphics.circle, but that is not considered a drawable. So for now, we'll put, I think we have any of this stuff should be able to work. So let's just put Let's just put our... We can put our mage as a... You know what? We'll put Jimmy. We'll put a gecko as our item. So... Okay, so we're going to say self.image gets love.graphics new image from Gecko Atlas. And then let's try that. We should see Jimmy on screen up here. Oh, okay. This is our... This is weird, actually. This is a 4x5? Why is there a 4x5? We only insert one item into the G items. Oh, okay. This is the whole atlas. Okay, so this is right. Okay, we need literally just a template placeholder item to draw. So let's give ourselves one here. Let's say let's make it like 12 by 12. And then it's just gonna be like a little satchel or something, like a little bag. Okay, that's not what I wanted. This is just a placeholder, so we're just gonna say very simple. It's just supposed to be like a little bag. You know, this is just a placeholder. So let us export this as a PNG. We'll put it in our graphics and we'll put it as bag.png. Okay. So what we'll do instead of Jimmy in there, we'll get bag from our graphics. So if we come into our item, we want graphics bag PNG. Okay. Okay, so we got a little bag there. So that is an item. So the idea is if we wanted to come in here and insert a bunch of items, we could, and then we want to make sure we can render them all. But this, I guess this is just a proof to be like, if we now have an item, we can say that item's .x gets its current position plus, let's say, 20 pixels to see if we can scoot the bag. Can we move the bag around, essentially, now that it's an item class? We can. So we can scoot our bag around. So now we need to tie its X and Y positions to an actual grid. Because ideally we pass in shit. I guess we get to decide, like, do we want to pass in the row and column of our bag, or do we want to assign it based on current inventory, which is probably what we'd have to do, because we can't just willy-nilly say bag gets 1-1 in our inventory grid, because if there's a thing in there, it would just overwrite it. So maybe what we do is yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's a little tough. So I guess what we want to do is we have items, we have a inventory. So let's for now, let's just take it from the step where our item class gets a row and column to be instantiated at. And let's just try to manipulate the item based on the grid position we give it. And we'll start there. So if we go to our item class, we would want our row and column to be pulled from the parameters. So we'll call this row and column. And then we want to essentially set our X position to be which row, and it would be the row, whatever the grid row is. I guess we could say just row times whatever offset for our width of an item. So I don't know what that looks like, but let's say it's maybe 32. And then let's give our Y to be equal to column times maybe 16. We'll see. So like now we're doing our XY based on the parameters we pass into our item. So now if we do it at row 1, column 2, it should be not at the top left, but scooted over. So that is a row 1, 2 of a bag, right? So like if we pull up our inventory system, the bag should slot in one of these grids. So if we were to give it a column or a row of 4, column 1, it's scooted down a bit. So we need to kind of figure out what the dimensions are for this grid so that we can place our items within it. And then we can add stuff like count into the render for the item. So if we go in here, we have a quantity, and we can say, you know what, we render our bag, and then we render how many, things are in the bag or whatever. So we can say print, and we want to print the quantity of whatever we have at we'd want, if we want it at the bottom right, since it's a 16 by 16, we could say something like self X plus 16, self Y plus 16. And instead of doing the hard-coded magic numbers like this, we can give it a width and height. For right now, the placeholder is a 16 by 16, right? Or was it? Yeah, I think it was 16 by 16. So we'll just put in these values here. It's hard because we don't know the final values. We don't know how big we want an item to be. So there's like a little bag. Ideally it only shows up in the inventory system. So we could do that where in our play state, instead of rendering it in our play state, we render it in our pause state. So if we go into play state, here we're rendering the item, but if we put it in our pause state, instead, we could say render our inventory, render our items. Okay, so there's our bag in our inventory, and then there's the 1 for the quantity. It's way off. It's way, way off. I don't know why. I feel like the bag was 16 by 16, right? So maybe let's try to just say at item if we render the number just at the X and Y location, it should be at the top left. Wow, see, look, even that's weird. Why would the X and Y not be flush with the top left? X, Y is the row and column. This is weird. Okay, let me try something here. Instead of self X, I'm going to try to replace it with 0 and just see. Actually, instead of Y, we're going to put 0. Okay, this is really strange to me. Okay. I guess it has to do with print. What the heck? So we're printing a rectangle at self X, self Y, and we're printing a quantity at self X, self Y. And the rectangle is in the spot I would expect it to be, but the print is not. So I think print might just handle X and Y a little differently than I thought. This is strange. Let's see. We give it a 0, 0 for the print, and let's see. Oh, see, what is going on here? Let me put on... Gotta get rid of my Ktronics note. It's yo, what did I just do? I just opened my undo tree and I don't remember what my prefix was for that. Hey, Booyah Grandma. Hey, how's it going? We are working on a little inventory system for our game here. We've got some programmer art stand-in. And we're trying to get this little baggie rendered in our inventory system and then add a little cursor so that we can move it around and everything. So that's what we're working on. And I just kind of like zoned out and like got lost. Okay, I know we want to do instead of in our play state rendering the items, we're going to render it in our pause state, which is our... Okay, we are doing that. And then we want to find... Yeah, it's going to be tough. I've never done anything like this so far, so I'm butting up into a bunch of issues of just trying to handle it, because we've got a bunch of different stuff going on, right? So it is tough. We're trying to like get the grid layout working so that, you know, this baggie here is on the third row, second column, which is fine. It's just that it doesn't, if it were full of items, it wouldn't look fully fleshed out. So I don't even know what width and height of total items we necessarily want. If we want like the second row and the first column, let's see that. See, that looks wrong. And then we want our... Hey, Booyah, I saw your clip on YouTube about Thor checking out your game, and that was really cool. So congrats on that, dude. That's awesome. That's really cool, dude. Yeah, that is super awesome. I am planning on making some YouTube shorts here in the not too distant future. But I want to do a good job on them and edit them and make them look good on mobile and stuff, so it's going to probably take me a little while. Okay, so this is what row 1, grid 1 looks like, which is just really jacked up. Now, what's really confusing to me is if we were to print a Booyah Grandma, yeah, I think that is a good idea, Booyah. I think, yeah, I was thinking about, because I want to empower people to start their own projects and stuff, so I was thinking about tidying up. I have a Love2d repo of like a basic state machine changes and simple renders. I was thinking about polishing up that repo as a starting repo and making a little short of like, here's how you can quickly start a video game in Love2d and Lua. Here's why Love2d is a good engine. Little stuff like that, because I'm super happy with the engine, because we're able to build for Mac, Linux, Windows, and the web. So we've got our game working on the web right now, which is really sweet. Okay, so there's Booyah Grandma at 0, 0, but like there's space above Booyah Grandma. So that's what I don't get, is how come a 0, 0, 0, if we give it like a -5 on the Y, that looks more flush. So where, like, that looks like true 0, 0, because there's no space on the left or the top of Booyah Grandma. So empty space in the font. You know, I don't know. Maybe we can try to set it to be a different font and see. Oh my gosh. Set font, and we'll call it small font. And then try a Booyah Grandma at 0, 0. Oh no, it looks so bad. Our game is running at Game Boy resolution, just scaled, so any font has to be like a super teeny pixel font. Where is our other fonts? We have a pixel font, a classic font. So pixel, let's try pixel font. Because if we were to try to do a red rectangle or something, like we can set here, set our color to red, and then go ahead and print out a little rectangle. And we'd want it at 0, 0, and then 5 width, 5 height. That would be at the very top left, I think. So I think you're right, Booyah, in the sense that it's got to be part of the font. Yeah, it's got to be part of the font, because it knows to make a little rectangle right at the top left at 0, 0. So I think it is the font. Okay, yeah. Guess it is the font. So I won't worry about that too much then. We'll leave Booyah Grandma in there. And then let's try to get the row and column. See, this is the row and column. We need to kind of figure out how big we want the rows to be so that we can place them properly. So if we were to do a rectangle, we basically want to figure out how much pixels we want the grid and row to be occupying. Thanks, Booyah. Yeah, this is some custom music I wrote for the stream. It's in Sonic Pi here. So it's playing live and it's just programming. This is the whole song you're listening to here. So it's just some ambient stuff running live here on the stream. So I'm probably due to write a new song for the stream. It's been like it's been more than that. It's been like a year of not updating the song. So I might make another variation. But also it's so ambient that it doesn't bug me. It doesn't feel like I get sick of it. So it's probably, I'll probably make a new one soon, but I'm glad you like it. So X and Y of 0, 0, width and height. Let's just do a width of, let's just test 50 and see what that looks like if our columns were to be a 50 wide. X, Y, width, height, love.graphics. Oh, we gave a height of 0, which is why we can't see anything. So we need to give, we can just give it virtual height. Okay, so that's probably too thick for one column. We'd probably want it maybe something like 25 or so. Okay, so there's 30. I kind of do want, I don't want them to be butted up against the very left side of the screen, so maybe we have an offset, an X and a Y offset, so that they're not scrunched up. So we can do, let's just give us a couple of globals to handle this. Let's just try 10 and 10 and see where that gets us. I guess if it's gonna be the same value, we only need one variable. So let's just try to render we want to modify our X and Y position by this inventory offset. And then as well as our X and Y. Actually, yeah, we can render this at our self.x. Self.y. Yeah, I do the game is like hard coded into the Game Boy resolution. So that does give us certain benefits. This is totally wrong. I think we don't modify. Jeez, man. I think we can modify it here. In the draw. So Booyah, I don't know how familiar you are with this channel, but I've been teaching myself programming a couple years, and I still consider myself, you know, new to programming and stuff. So a lot of my streams are just me flailing around until I figure stuff out. So, but you know. I learn a lot. I learn a lot. This is... Yeah. Okay, well, hey, if this is your first time checking out the channel here, I can show you a little bit about the game so far. It's a top-down action-adventure game like Link's Awakening. We've got two little NPCs here. We play as a character named Tashio Tempo, and he's got some spell casting abilities. So here is the fire spell that you can use to cleanse these geckos, rid them of their purple corruption. So we've got like little AI, very simple AI kind of tracking for him here. So they'll track us down and we can cleanse them. And then we also have little pits you can like fall into, and then little cabins that don't do anything other than just walk into. But the game right now is mainly just placeholder artwork. My whole theory was like, if we can get all the kind of bones to make a lot of levels set, then we can spend time designing and stuff. So like I've been kind of just getting all the bones designed so that we can draw up to 100 levels or more. The levels we're drawing right now is like 100 sprites or 100 scenes. But they're all placeholder art right now. So like this is all just like placeholder. This is the ice biome up here in the mountains. We can add these animations wherever we want fairly easily, and we can use the tiled tool to draw our levels and export them and import them. So we can kind of draw them here and then export them and import them as data. So like our whole map thing is one atlas, like right here. These are all the sprites our game has right now. It's just like not a lot of sprites. So we only have like one atlas, and then we're just using the data to like manually draw each little tile all at once. So all the pictures are pulled from the atlas, but we do it using this little drawing map thing called tiled, and then we just get a bunch of tables, and we know where to draw them in, and we have it so that we've got if we draw the first frame of water, for example, it knows, okay, if you drew the first frame of a water, then I need to insert an animated water sprite at that location. So I did all the calculations for that and stuff. So what's also cool is like little collidable objects, stuff like trees and fences and stuff. If we draw them on the map here, our game knows that they're collidable objects, so we can't walk through them. So as long as we draw them like a signpost, we can't walk through them, because any sprite that's in this red row, any sprites here are called collidable objects, and you just can't walk through them. So we're kind of doing some things, some kind of interesting things under the hood to kind of make the iterative process a little bit easier, so that we don't have to worry about inserting animations on certain frames. We just kind of say, hey, put a animated water right here, and then our game kind of handles it for us. Okay, where is this rectangle that we are drawing already? That's in our inventory class. Okay, so that's at a self x, self y, which is just 5, 5. Okay. For right now, let's give our we'll give our x offset for our inventory the same 5, 5. We just want to make it line up, and then we can kind of decide. Okay, so like that column looks pretty good. Like I like the 5, 5 offset. So let's see what would happen if we were to do, I don't know if I like the width of the column. It's close. That's cool. Booyah. I mean, I'm super impressed with your game. I don't know how you pull off what you pull off. It's really cool. I just love the diversity of everyone's different setups and engines and stuff. It's so cool. Like we're all in our own little niche of like, this is how we do it. So I just think it's so cool to see different game dev streamers pull off in their own interesting ways. Okay, so with a height or with a width of 30, that would mean the middle of our inventory is at 60. Let's see if that's... See, that's too big. Oh, actually, that's perfect if we want 3 columns. Okay, so that is actually perfect. And then 90 would get us the whole inventory. It doesn't look quite pixel perfect there. But this is still template placeholder stuff. Yeah, and you know, I'm going. I like Godot. If I'm starting from scratch, knowing nothing, I think I would choose Godot. It's just that my first exposure into game dev was in Love2d and Lua, so I took the lectures Harvard CS50 offers on game dev. So we made Pong and Flappy Bird in Love2d and Lua, and then after I made those 2 games, I knew enough to make my own stuff. So I've just been branching out from that and teaching myself. So that's the reason I'm here. But also I value flexibility, and I want anyone to be able to play the game. So it's like you can go to Tashio.dev and Love2d can be ported to the web right here, like super easily. So we've got the game working in the web right here. And then one thing I forgot to show you, Booyah, is we have like a Guitar Hero-like mini game. So there's music in this game. So you can pull up your music, and you have guitar strings, lute strings here in different frets. and I'm very bad at the game, but we have, you know, I have to modify this to work on Game Boy because we just kind of swapped over to a limitation of only 2 buttons on Game Boy plus the D-pad. So moving forward, I have to refactor all the loot stuff into Game Boy accessible buttons. Oh, thanks. Yeah. I love how it looks like when you strum like that. I think it's really cool. So I'm excited about that. I think the game will have more than just the loot. I think we're gonna have a total of 4 instruments that you can play. Because I like Link's Awakening and that you gather all the instruments, but I was always bummed that you couldn't play the instruments. So in my game, we're gonna have 4 playable instruments, and you have to play them in a certain spot with certain sheet music in order for you to unlock, you know, the next dungeon per se. So that's the kind of progression system that is gonna be in my game. It's like, you know, you don't get a dungeon key like you do in Zelda, but you get tomes that have sheet music that you have to play music for to unlock the next biomes. So that's the kind of like idea for the game. There's, you know, there's more going on with the story and stuff, but that's the kind of sell of like magic and music basically. Okay, so we need I don't know, I feel like I'm going about this in a very weird way. Because here we have, in our inventory, we have an item width, an item height, and a column and row. So I think we don't need to do that stuff in our item class, because our inventory will hold all the items we have, and the item width and the rows we have kind of dictate the X and Y position of our rows and columns. So if we can have it where we like declare a table of items that our inventory has, and we say, you know, our items table holds 3 items, each one rendering a little baggie for right now, then we can say, it's really tough. It's like surprisingly difficult. I was thinking it wasn't going to be that difficult, but it's really complicated. Because we need to be able to hold a reference to all of our current items throughout our saves with the correct quantity and correct placement in our inventory system. And then we have to be able to kind of, I don't know if we're going to be able to move our items in our inventory system or if we just select it and it equips automatically. So does it make sense to have our item width and item height and rows and columns here in our inventory class? I think so. Because our inventory is like what's going to hold all of our items and whatever our current selections are. So I think it does make sense. So we probably don't want items to be declared by their own width and stuff. So like, I don't think we want to do it like this. So what would our item have? Our item would have a reference to what current grid row and grid column we're in. I don't think it needs the width and height, and the X and Y is determined by which grid row and grid column it's in. It will have an image, it will have a quantity, so this is looking more right. So let's try to, in our play state, instead of making an item in here, yeah, we can give ourselves a global items table. So what's really tricky is like the cursor. I don't really want the cursor to be navigatable on every empty spot, because I want the game to like I want it to be quick to reassign or re-equip different items. And if you have to scroll through 8 empty slots of your inventory, I think it'll just be slow and annoying. So like we have to think about like how we're gonna roll over the cursor selection to, like, if you hit down and there's nothing beneath you, does it roll back up to the top, or does it not do that? All these decisions we've got to make. And then I guess the items, like the different item instantiation, should go into the inventory table or class. Where is it? Okay. It's tough for me to wrap my head around how to do this, because we don't want, you know what, I think we were right in the sense that okay, so we have a 2D array of our inventory grid, and I think that is what needs to hold. That's what needs to hold our item. And then we can move that item into other slots of that 2D array, and then we just go ahead and render any item that's in that array if it is in there. So we can table.insert, not into G items, but let's try to insert it into our inventory grid. And we'll try to do it, for right now, let's try to do it at 1.1 hard-coded and just see. So it's like we're putting the item instantiation into, and at this point we don't need the parameters because we're doing it based on the inventory grid now. So in our item class, well, yeah, we don't need, I don't know. I do think, let's just leave it for now as 1.1. And then we're putting an item inside our 2D array here just once after our init. This for loop here is just giving us, it's initializing an empty table at every row and every column so that we can insert things like an item in there, and then we can then loop over it and print it up to the screen. So right now we have one item in our inventory grid at 1.1. So we need a way to say that a grid at 1.1. See, like I feel like we need to modify inventory to be like, or item to be something like a item slot. Because if it were an item slot idea, like I think it's, because the goal here is we want to be able to say, go ahead and render all of our inventory grids. So like we would say for how many rows we have. Where I gets one of our self rows. And then we would cycle through our columns. So I think what we want is something like this, where we say, go ahead and inventory grid at IK render. So in order for this to, we say, wait for I rows do. I don't know why this is mad at us for the syntax highlighting. What's going on? Oh, render needs to be closed. Okay. So this is what I'm wanting to do, is say like, okay, now that we've updated all of our inventory grids that holds all of our items, go ahead and render them, each one. So like inventory grid at 1-1, if there's an item in there, you would render it. 1-2, if there's an item in there, it'd render it. So we need to store items into the grid here, but the grid itself doesn't have... Actually, okay. We could keep it like items, because the 1-1 here is where that item exists. So if we go about this route, we still can, because the only thing that's in here is an item. Let me see if it crashes. It does. So if there's no item, it renders. So maybe we say if inventory grid, if the thing at that location does not equal nil, then go ahead and render. Basically, only render it if there's an item in there. Inventory 19, it doesn't like it still. Oh, grid 1-1. Doesn't like us to insert it? Let's make sure our item is declared before our inventory, because otherwise we can't do that. Okay, yeah, we need to require our item before our inventory so we can use it. Still at 19, shit. Okay, so this is just... Okay. There's an empty table in here. Why can't we do this? I don't know why we can't do this, because we give ourselves an inventory grid. We give ourselves a table at every index here. So like however many rows, however many columns, we put an empty table in each one of those so that we can insert stuff into them. Yet we can't do this 1-1. Why can't we do this? Yo, I don't know why can't we do this? Okay, for limit must be a number. Okay, so this is columns and rows. Can't call render on an inventory 22. We'd have to go into the item that exists in there in order to render it. Jesus Christ. Item 17. Field X is a nil value. Yeah. Okay, so if we want the item to render... Hey, Sasquatch. Happy Sunday. Hope you had a good weekend, dude. Thanks for stopping in. If we want this item to render... Oh, I've got some updates, too. I got that developer I interviewed for the channel. I finished editing the interview today. So I'm going to be doing like a last looks pass, making sure the video is correct and I don't want to change anything, and then I'll be exporting it. So maybe this coming week, maybe on Friday or something, I'll schedule the live stream of the interview here on Twitch, and then after Friday it'll just be available on the YouTube channel. So that's coming up. It'll probably be this week. So I'll be exporting it and finalizing it tomorrow, probably tonight and tomorrow, and then I'll be able to post it and share it with everybody. It came out great. I'm actually really happy with it. So I think it was really cool. I couldn't have asked for like a better first guess. Like Craig was super cool, and he shared his screen and showed the code and demoed everything. So it was really cool. Yo, this is a disaster. Okay, so if there's an item inside each of these inventory grids, then we would have to go into, like, maybe we say if the first thing that's in there does not equal nil, go ahead and render it. Attempt to get length of a nil value on 21. Attempt to get length of a nil value. Okay, so you can't get length of a nil value, so why don't we go ahead and just say, because if there's no item, if there's no item in the grid, it can't render it. So how do we say, if the thing that's in the first index of that 2D array does not equal nil, that means there's an item in there, that means you can render it. Okay. Pause state 16, attempt to nil. Excuse me. Okay. Did I get those swapped? Or I always get them swapped around. Like, I'm trying to think. I like the 2D array to be row on the first index. So it'll be row on the first index and then column on the second index. So for every column, we're gonna go populate every row. Oh yeah, you're right. I screwed this up. How did I screw this up so bad? Okay, yeah. So for column, we want to do... Is that right? God damn it. Yeah, I think that's how we normally do it. Is for rows, then columns. Yeah. Okay. Something like that. Okay, so we aren't crashing anymore, but I'm not seeing our item because we're not rendering the item we insert it? We insert it into the grid manually here, and then we render it. We might have screwed up the render in here. We render the image at its... Oh, see what? We render the item here at the self X, self Y, which doesn't exist anymore. So we have to put the parameters we use to make the item are the grid row and grid call. So we're gonna put that X and Y in there. Right now it's just a 1-1, so we need to modify it by the width of the items, or width of the... We want to multiply it by however wide our rows are, right? Shit, but that would throw it off for the one indexing, so let's just see. I just want to see an item in the inventory right now, and we don't have it. So for right now, let's literally just try to render it at 0, 0, because I just want to see the damn thing. Okay, so we're not seeing it. We place the item in our inventory grid. Oh, and it's weird. We're trying to call render outside of... Yeah, the programmer art is a sight to behold for sure. I think our render literally just needs to be in the render function. There we go. We got our baggie. Okay, let me see. Let's put... We'll put the... Not at X and Y, but we want to put at self grid row for the... No, call for the X. Column for the X, and row for the Y. So now it should be, if we were to say, what if we put this at 10, 10? Okay, sweet. So we've got a little baggie in our inventory system, and we can move it. Ideally, I want to be able to say this should be at... You know, if the thing is 4 rows and 3 columns, I don't know if we're gonna stay there. Like, that's why the mock-up was like made. If this 3 columns, 4 rows of items, you know, we could probably fit another, but I don't have that many ideas for items, so that's way too many. Not exactly sure. Ideally, I want to be able to say, item at 1-1, and it would go here. And I would want to say, okay, well, there's an item at 1-2, and it goes here. And we just give it those numbers 1 through 4, and it would place it at the grid. And then if we can place items at the different grid, then we're at the beginning of like being able to move stuff around and lock it in. So we want to be able to say 1-1 and then give it the correct grid location. So let's go to our item, and instead of rendering it at grid call, we take our grid call and we can say, and one thing I still don't know how to do is like, we want to offset these by a certain width. So like we want to say maybe our grid row, our X is our grid column number times the width of an item, which we'll just put 3, for example, 30. And then our Y is going to be a self.grid row times, we'll just put 30 for an example. And then we'll render this thing at its own X and Y. And then let's see if now 1, 1 shouldn't be at the very top left. It should be top left shifted by 30 X and Y. Okay, that looks too far, but also Game Boy is really tiny. That actually looks right, because the border here is 5. So this is 5 pixels, and this is 5 pixels. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 is over here. So we want to be able to say, you know, if I don't know of a nice way of doing this, but like if our grid row is equal to 1, then we don't modify by the width. We just put it at 0, 0. And 0, well, yeah, this is another thing, because it's like, ideally we can kind of set a canvas for our inventory and then just declare a grid for it. And all we have to do is tell our item slot which grid and row it's in, and it would kind of place automatically. Hey, what's up, Magnetonics? How's it going, dude? How was your Temtem stream? So I think we want to say, like, if our grid row is equal to 1, we don't want to shift our Y by any. If our grid call is equal to 1, we don't want to shift our X by any. But we want to offset it. We want to offset our Y if we have more, if we're on not the first grid, we want to multiply it by the width of our items, which right now we just have it as 30. But let's see. Okay, nice. Yeah, dude, multiplayer is really rough. Are you talking about local multiplayer? I mean, even local multiplayer is rough. But like if you're trying to do online stuff, that's nuts, dude. Okay, so there, it's at 0, 0. So if we were to give it a different row, dude, hey, God be with you. I can't help you, but I wish you the best of luck. That would be epic, dude. I mean, because it would be cool to be able to play against each other's on your game. Yeah. I'm sure that is tough, dude. Yeah, you can figure it out, dude. You can figure it out. You definitely can. You just have to break it down into the small enough pieces. Yeah, exactly. That's what's tough. Yeah, because your game is literally based on that, so. Okay. So our little... This is way off. 30 is way too big. Let's try 10. We have to figure out what the width and height is. That's too tiny, so let's try... Because what we're trying to do is place something, for example, at 2, 2, which is if the inventory was a grid, which it is, then 2, 2 would be 1 down, 1 over. 2, 2 would be like right here. So we need to maybe double the X and Y of the width and height of this item. So maybe 20. Okay, yeah. So there's like a grid 2, 2. We do need we need to make sure our quantity is being shifted also. So we'll put our self.x and y in our quantity so that can stay with our little item here. Sweet. So there's our little quantity thing. And if we wanted to give our item maybe 20, we could modify it with that field now. So that's cool. So there's 2-2. Let's try 3-2. Ship. Okay, this is looking close. It's a little off on the height, so we need to add a little bit more to the height of each item. So every row is maybe 25 instead of 20. Let's see if that makes our... That looks a little too high. No, actually that looks kind of okay. Let's see what 4 looks like. The 4th row of items. Okay, nice. So 4's there, and then so one weird thing, you know, if our item is at 1-1, we don't want 0-0. We want something like 5-5. So in our item here, we'll just say that this is where we would put that inventory offset, right? And we'll just make sure that that's 5. It is. Okay. Sweet. Okay, let's try to move our item over one more. Let's try that 3rd column, which I have not seen yet. It's in our inventory. Shit. Okay. Okay, so item at 1-2 is 1st row, 2nd column. So let's try the 3rd column and see if the spacing is looking okay for those. Yeah, we need a bigger spacing just by a bit. So maybe 25 on the Y also for this, which would be... Uh-oh. Okay, in our item class, when we go to do the offset here, let's try to put 25 in here and see if that looks good on the columns for the column 3. That looks pretty good. Yeah. It looks... it's hard to say because there's a bunch of junk in there. But let's see what 1 looks like. And I guess what we could do... Yeah, we just don't... We'll just manually do this for right now. We'll have to be able to say, go ahead and render every item that's in our inventory. See, that looks weird. You know, ideally, yeah, they're just not spaced out so great. So like if we were to say here, let's go ahead and insert, see, yeah, okay. Yeah. I'm doing this wrong. Like I'm doing a weird thing where I'm like asking which grid and row it's supposed to go in, and then placing it into that grid and row here, which is just really strange, because if we wanted to, we shouldn't be like duplicating stuff like that. We should just be able to say there's an item in this grid, and since it's in that grid's location, we know where to render that item at. And I don't know how to exactly say that. we should be able to say, I mean, I guess that would come down to a for loop or something where these values would just be passed in as parameters to the item so that it goes into the same location. But like for right now, let's just put an item in each of these top 3 grids so that we can see what it looks like when they're laid out, because we need to see them all at once to make sure they look even. So we'll add an item in there, and then when we render every item that isn't nil. So just declaring them here, inserting them into the table here should give us 3 items, and then we'll see how jacked up we are. Yeah, see how. Ugh. So yeah, we want this equal distance for each one of these guys. So. Okay. So each subsequent one that isn't at the grid 1-1 would get modified by its current row plus this offset. I don't get why it's so far. Why would the second item be so far away from the first item, and then the third item consistently far from the second? I don't get that. But I have to get going, so we'll make a little commit here. And we'll say like added item class for rendering or for tracking items in inventory. Okay, and then tomorrow we'll do some better digging and try to conceptualize this maybe a bit better, because I'm still kind of feeling out what we need from it. So we'll just have to continue to figure it out. Thanks for watching, everybody. I've got to go head out, but I'll be back here tomorrow. Hope everyone has a good night. We'll raid out to Basie. He's working on, I don't know what he's working on at the moment, but he's always working on something cool. So peace out. Hope you have a good night. Thanks for hanging. Hey, Booyah. Yeah, thanks for hanging. It was nice to have you in checking out the stream. I appreciate it, dude. Have a good night.